Well, hi, everybody. I'm Don Stewart. We're coming at you with a special report for this Tuesday, the 9th day of September, 2025. The story that just came across the wire. Israel strikes Qatar in an attempt to assassinate Hamas officials. This is from the Jerusalem Post. This has just happened. Here's the latest. Khalil al-Hayya, the leader of Hamas, was one of the targets of the operations. The IDF and the Shin Bet on Tuesday confirmed an attack on the Hamas leadership in Doha, Qatar. A statement said that the leaders targeted were responsible for the October 7th, 2023 massacre of around 1,200 Israelis in the country's south, as well as managing the terror group's operations for years before that. Khalil al-Hayya, the leader of Hamas, was one of the targets of the operation. Israeli official confirmed the Jerusalem Post. His death has not been confirmed. Two Hamas sources told Reuters that Hamas officials in the ceasefire negotiating team survived the attack. Israeli sources told the Post that senior Hamas officials were killed in the strike in Doha, but at this point there is no confirmation. It will take time. Israeli officials told the Jerusalem Post that the U.S. knew about the attack beforehand and gave it the green light. The U.S. Embassy in Doha had issued a shelter-in-place order for all U.S. citizens. Hamas had received a new proposal from Qatar, which Israel, obtained from Witkoff last week in Paris. The prime minister met with the Hamas leadership yesterday, and they decided to meet again today to discuss the proposal arriving from Turkey, a diplomatic source told the Jerusalem Post. As had happened before, the Israelis undermined hopes for peace, further prolonging the war and complicating efforts to bring back the hostages. That's from Qatar. And Qatar, again, is not an honest broker. They're deep in the pocket of Hamas. Okay, so the next heading here, Qatar strongly condemns cowardly Israeli attack. The state of Qatar strongly condemns the cowardly Israeli attack that targeted residential buildings housing several members of the political bureau of Hamas in the Qatar capital, Doha, said Majid al-Ansari, spokesman of the Qatar Foreign Ministry. The criminal assault constitutes a blatant violation of all international laws and norms and poses a serious threat to the security and safety of the citizens of Qatar and the residents of Qatar, they added. While the state of Qatar strongly condemns this assault, it confirms that it will not tolerate this reckless Israeli behavior and the ongoing disruption of regional security, nor any acts that targets its security and sovereignty. According to the military and the Shin Bet, that's the Israeli, service there, special measures were taken to avoid harming anyone other than the top Hamas leaders, based on precise intelligence and munitions. The Post learned that the order to carry out this operation was only given days ago. They said in an official statement that the Israeli Air Force and the Shin Bet, that's Israel's security agency, conducted a precise strike targeting the senior leadership of Hamas's terrorist organization. For years, these members of the Hamas leadership have led the terrorist organization's operations. They're directly responsible for the brutal October 7th massacre and have been orchestrating and managing the war against the state of Israel, the statement read. No mention has been made of Khalid Mashal, who was formerly the leader of Hamas years ago and remains a symbol of the group. However, in July 2024, as we know, the Mossad assassinated Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran at a time when he was heavily involved in negotiations. In that case, the Biden administration falsely accused Prime Minister Netanyahu of targeting Haniyeh partially to avoid a hostage deal, which he did not want at that time. Netanyahu was defended by top Israeli defense officials who said that Haniyeh had been an obstacle to the deal, that in any case he was responsible for the October 7th massacre and he was too large to leave him alive. It was unclear what position the Trump administration would take on an attack at a time when it's trying to press Israel and Hamas to reach a deal, and it was unclear who would remain Hamas's top negotiator. The attack was also unusual because it was carried out by the Air Force and the Shin Bet, as opposed to the Mossad, which is normally responsible for out-of-Israel assassinations, such as with Haniyeh. However, the Mossad, as the story finishes, has managed to maintain better relationship with Qatar, such that a decision may have been made to keep them at a distance from this operation. Now, that's the latest. We're going to do another story or second breaking news later today, but we needed to bring this to you. This is a huge, huge development. And so they have threatened recently. We've talked about this. Israel has threatened to go after the Hamas leaders outside of Israel. And we know they're in Doha, Qatar, living in five-star hotels. A number of them are billionaires, and they're calling the shots. And Israel decided to go after them, like they claim that they would, and they have certainly done this. So again, this is a very special report on breaking news on this Tuesday, September 9th, 2025. Like I said, we'll have a third edition of breaking news later today when a few hours when the dust settles, we know a little bit more about it. But we thought we'd bring this to you right now as the story is actually breaking as we speak. I'm Don Stewart. Thank you for watching. We'll see you later on the next edition. Until then, as always, may the Lord richly, richly bless.